Well, we've been raising a lot of red flags about the Mates and Dates program. It's in schools, it's an ACC program for children 13 years up, so secondary school. It's always been sold as a program around healthy relationships, around consent, the harms of drugs and alcohol, keeping safe together. But what we've found is that it's closely linked to the Ministry of Education's Relationships and Sexuality Education curriculum, which is a deeply flawed curriculum with a massive push on issues such as identity, gender, and sexuality, including the use of the flawed and misleading genderbreed person. You choose your gender irrespective of your biological sex. Now, last time we covered this, we talked to a mum concerned by what her 13-year-old told her after sitting through just one class of Mates and Dates. And based on the feedback, it seems that you too were very concerned. Today, we talk to someone who is trained as a facilitator, and you'll be fascinated by her views as well. Hayley, really appreciate you being on McBLOG. Now, you've actually trained as a facilitator for Mates and Dates. How long ago was that?
So that was 4 years ago, around the July, August 2018.
Okay, and how long is the training for?
Training was for 3 or 4 days. I was trying to remember actually, but it was less than a week. And it was actually mainly about facilitation. We thought it would be about the content, but we got there, it was actually just about facilitation and what words we weren't allowed to use and what we could use.
Right. Can you think of any examples of words you're not allowed to use?
My husband actually was pulled up a lot because we had to do it in pairs and our demo type a demo, whatever that was, sorry.
Training,
we were standing up there, demoing what our skills were. So he would often say, oh, so my assistant here has got some options for a game we're going to play. He wasn't even allowed to sort of say assistant. It was like they were saying he was making out he was superior to them, and it was just all the little nice things of just being nice had been stripped. Yeah.
Were you allowed to say boys and girls?
We were, but we weren't allowed to actually write columns when we were trying to sort out some of the games. We weren't allowed to put the columns titled with boys, girls, things like that. We were very specific on, I think we might have had the word just gender, and then so yeah, it was, we were allowed to say that, but it was not. They weren't pleased if you said it too often.
Okay, so I think the representation of Mates and Dates funded by ACC, so there's lots of funding. I'll come back to that point later, but the perception is that it's about consent in relationships, and it's also about healthy living, being good friends, avoiding alcohol and drugs. Is that what it's about?
That is exactly why we went to do the training. We were quite excited, thinking this is wonderful. This is exactly what we believed it was about. No, they never once talked about love, care, and this is love and care in a friendship even. They were not, that was never mentioned, never about abstaining from alcohol, the dangers that alcohol can bring you. It was all about you've had something to drink, you've had some drugs. If you get raped, this is who we've got to blame, and we're gonna package that up so that, you know, when you do drink and do drugs and have sex, this is the outcome of your friends and your co-workers if they're working part-time and things like that. It was everyone else's responsibility.
So it's all harm minimization, basically.
It was, instead of ever mentioning that you don't have to drink and that you don't have to take drugs, and that you can actually have a friendship with people and care about them without it being sex. They just missed this whole big gap of being kind and caring to a fellow human.
Okay, so now the big concern is that it's being taken over effectively by gender fluidity kind of ideology. How strong is that?
So that was in every lesson that we did, it was always brought up. So it might have been about sharing bathrooms that they were going to make gender neutral bathrooms in all schools available, in the malls and all of that. So it was getting touched on. In every lesson, there was something would come in. There was always talking about the many types of genders that are actually out there, and I think they were saying something like 13 or 30 was
way
something
more than
huge.
that now. Yeah, this is 4 years ago. They've found a whole lot more.
Exactly. So they were touching on it all the time, and that it was like, what is this? This is So they were definitely putting the seed out there every lesson, and the students were just absolutely bamboozled themselves. Truly were.
Yeah, okay. So look, let me come to that in a sec. So you and your husband did it, but your husband didn't even make it into the classroom. He bailed, didn't he?
Yeah, he bailed. Sometimes I'm a bit more of the grey. I'm like, okay, let's just give them a chance, benefit of the doubt. He was just like, no way, this is horrendous. This is what the outcome's going to be later. This is just awful. So he bailed straight away. He actually struggled with me still going, of course.
Okay, so you got into the classroom and you were paired with someone else, because they always do it in twos, my understanding.
Yes.
And what was the students' response, especially when you're pushing the whole, well, you can choose your gender, you can change your gender, there's all these names for your sexuality, all these names for your gender. How were the young, because it was starting at year 9, so this is 13, 14-year-olds.
Yeah, so they, my youngest was a year 10 group that we did, and I did year 10s, 11s and 12s. All of those ages though, all of them were sitting there with almost their mouths wide open going, what am I listening to? I had them come up to me after the lesson saying, what is this? I'm so confused. They were genuinely everyday kids that were suddenly stressed and confused of why they were confused as well. So yeah, it was really odd. It was an odd experience. The co-hosting that we do together was meant to always be a male and female, and they had that written down. It was meant to be a boy and a girl, or male or female. Then they couldn't get enough men, and so it became mainly 2 females. Yeah, very frequently, and the dynamics just weren't pleasant for even the students. There was just constant confusion. Anyway, it's very hard to explain, but they voiced it well. They would just say it. They'd shake their head actually. Just go like they just when you're teaching, they were just like this.
And primarily around the whole gender identity and sexuality labeling.
Definitely about the gender identity. They were just like, what's this? And then the part about the rape and the situations people can get themselves into was so out the gate that they were also confused about that, because they weren't even in a situation, some of them, that they were even thinking about drinking. Yeah. Suddenly they were thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get raped.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very odd.
So how long did you stay in the program?
I stayed for a whole term. Yeah, I stayed for a whole term.
And so then you bailed.
And yeah, then I bailed. They offered me the next term to start again, and I really looked at myself I stayed in it because I really believed I'd be able to perhaps help some people feel clearer in what they were hearing. Yeah. Because I knew they were all confused, and I thought, oh, that's okay. I'm here. I can still talk to them and say it's okay not to have these issues of needing to be gender diverse. If they were happy to be a girl, still be a girl, because that was never spoken about either. You were never welcome to just be what you were born as. That was skipped. So I stayed thinking I could maybe help, but my facilitator, I just seemed to always be paired with people who were very, very staunch in delivering, and you just shush about everything else. Yeah.
So being celibate, drug-free, and your own biological sex was kind of a no-no for the whole program.
Never mentioned, never encouraged, just never mentioned. Yeah. It was odd to choose that. Yeah.
Okay, and quite a bit of funding in this program, isn't there? It's ACC funded. Yeah. There's no shortage of incentive to be a facilitator.
Massive money. I actually re-looked at the invoices that were sent, because I remember it being big money 4 years ago. So I thought I'd better check the pricing. I was able to, an hourly rate. Am I allowed to say the money?
Yeah, go for it. You
Yeah.
tell us.
So it was 95 plus GST per hour, plus any travel time I did that was over 20 minutes distance. So I'd be paid for, say, another 30 minutes to 60 minutes each way of my travel, and plus the mileage of 63 cents a K, I think it was.
Right.
So I would get big money, and I could do 2 or 3 sessions in a day and walk away with, $550.
Big money for indoctrination. Hey,
Yes.
I have to ask this question, and it's because I know where you're based, but we're not going to share that. But you're in a rural North Island area. Do you think your kids that you were delivering to were just naive, but this program would be very relevant for city kids?
No, because I actually worked in a city school as well. So we did some rural ones and city ones.
Okay.
And all of them.
Okay. So this program has snuck under the radar, but we're slowly exposing it, and there's been huge interest. Parents are concerned now. What's your advice? You've been a facilitator, you've got children at that age. What's your advice to parents?
Truly, just take them out of that course. There's no need for it. At school level, there is zero need for it. It is damaging. Just don't let them do that 1 hour a week as a Mates and Dates lesson. They're allowed to take them out, so take them out. There's no purpose to it. It's actually horrible. And just get some resources online about if they're stuck as well. Contact the other parenting help, toolbox parenting, and other things to learn about how to just bring up your children well. Take them out of that lesson.
Okay. Hey, really appreciate your time. Thanks for being on McBLOG. I hope people take your warning to heart.
Thank you.